Escape2Make helps young people escape from social media, escape from life's pressures at school or at home, and make things, creative things, all kinds of things, and make friends and make a difference in the community. So really it's a way to help them connect with themselves, each other, the community and environment.
Orbiting 250 miles above, the space station provides us with the ultimate view of planet Earth. From this perspective, we ask our guests to engage with 6 questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. For the next few minutes, this is our Wonderspace.
Welcome to the 144th episode of the Wonderspace Podcast. My name is Steve Cole, and over the past 4 years, I have asked the same 6 questions to amazing people from around the world. Questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. We started during the COVID lockdown to enlarge people's vision and perspective and remind us that alongside crisis and emergency are always mind-blowing wonders in the natural world and hopeful stories that have the potential to fuel us and energize us, even in the most challenging of times. Before I introduce our guest this week, here is another 1-minute wonder from our friends at Ask Nature, who are part of the Biomimicry Institute.
Found throughout the world in lakes, rivers, and oceans, microscopic organisms known as diatoms pull the mineral silica from the water around them and craft it into astoundingly intricate containers for themselves in rectangular, circular, or even star shapes. This material is the strongest for its weight known in nature, and it gives its owners a variety of benefits. It protects from predators. Its lens-like properties can turn harmful ultraviolet light into rays the microbes can harvest for energy, and the structures can selectively allow nutrients in while filtering out harmful organisms. To make these shells, silicic acid transporters move dissolved silica from the surrounding water into a holding structure inside the cell. There, other proteins link silica molecules together to form a hard structure. Some, called solafins, make bits with tiny pores. Pluralins help connect the top and bottom parts of the box shape of the shell. Yet others, known as singulins, help make bands that wrap around the structure and hold it together. A sugar polymer known as chitin offers additional strength. Finally, the diatom coats the structure with organic materials known as long-chain polyamides. Scientists think these are helpful in creating the customized shapes for each of the countless species in nearly every environment on Earth.
For this Wonderspace episode, we orbit around Lancashire in the northwest of England, which is home to our guest Jenny Natusch. Jenny is best known as the founder of a pioneering creative educational charity called Escape2Make. But I think the heart and essence of Jenny is captured in the way she engages with our last question. She asks, how do we become more connected to real life? To be more curious, to be more compassionate? And how do we look for the wonderful? And how do we just say, wow, a bit more? I hope you enjoy this orbit with myself and Jenny. Jenny, it's great to have you on board a Wonderspace orbit today. You are so welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Great to be on your ship.
All good. So, as you know, we ask 6 questions, and we've done that to over 140 people around the world. Jenny, from this imaginary window seat on the space station with a panoramic overview of Earth, our first Wonderspace question is, if we could do a fly past over any part of the world that is significant to you, which place, city or country would it be and why?
I love this question, and I always try and get the window seat of an aeroplane if I can.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm looking at a spinning globe or a map or anything. My focus always goes to one little finger-like peninsula that juts out into the Arabian Gulf just above the United Arab Emirates. It's called Doha or Qatar. The reason I look there is because that's where my parents went to live in 1974 when I was just 3 years old. But then after that little peninsula, my gaze then always travels across to the United Arab Emirates, because that's where they then went in 1978 to live in Abu Dhabi. And our family witnessed the most extraordinary change over a very short period of time in the 70s, 80s and 90s. So yeah, that part of the world is very, very special to me, and it's home. And although I haven't been for 20 years, a very warm, dusty feeling comes over me whenever I look at it.
Wow. Jenny, you would not recognise Abu Dhabi 20 years later. It is extraordinary. I had the privilege of going there probably about 5 years ago, and I think even since then it's unrecognisable. It's a place of constant development in the middle of a desert, which you can't quite get your head around, can you?
No, well, I'm not in a hurry to go back. That might change, but I think I just want to keep hold of my memories, my childhood memories, and how it was back in the day.
Yeah. Brilliant. Great start. Our second question focuses in on you and your story. So, Jenny, give us a glimpse into your life story so far, with an emphasis on what you're doing currently.
Oh, gosh. Right. I'll try and be quick with this. So, well, my parents made an amazing leap of faith, and they left their families and their working class roots in Blackpool and Barrow-in-Furness. And they went to live in the Middle East in 1974, looking to escape the poverty trap, really. And they ended up there for nearly 3 decades. So I had a pretty unconventional childhood and education, which involved some schooling taking place in my Auntie Jean Majori's spare bedroom in Doha, and some taking place in a little porter cabin in the middle of the burning hot Doha desert. And at one stage, I was at a boarding school in the wet, freezing cold Lake District. And I was a bit of a misfit wherever I was at school. But luckily, I had this amazing art teacher, and she helped me uncover my creative passions for art and textile design. And I went to art college in Manchester, and then to Farnham in Surrey. And then I did a stint in Thailand working on an arts project in an orphanage, working with extremely vulnerable young people. And that was a real eye-opener for me, as well as a real heart-opener. And 4 years then of freelance designing children's wear, but I didn't really find that fulfilling enough. So when I lost my bread and butter money freelance job in the 90s, I found myself on the dole and on housing benefit. And I made a radical decision to write television formats designed to help young people connect with themselves, connect with each other, connect with the community, and connect with the environment. And the reason I did that is because basically technology was starting to come in. And even though mobile phones looked like bricks and the internet was Yahoo and there was hardly anything on it to search for, but I could kind of see that in 20, 30 years' time, young people were going to be gaming more, they were going to be on their screens more, and they were going to be losing connection. They were going to be losing real life connection, and they'd have too much artificial connection. So then amazingly, even though I didn't know anybody in television and I didn't really know what I was doing, one of my ideas was commissioned. It started off as a children's television programme, but because of health and safety reasons, it was actually adapted into a ridiculous survival game show for adults. But I was aged 27 and that seemed like a lot of fun at the time. So I set up as a proper production company and I worked with BBC Manchester and we flew around the world and produced a programme called Bare Necessities that was on BBC for a couple of years or so. So yeah, a lot of fun, but far removed from what I intended it to be initially. And it hadn't really made a positive impact on the world as far as I could see. So I decided to reinvent myself again. This is a bit of a long story as well, but I co-founded a company in the property tech sector and then sold it several years later. And I did this to earn money to set up a treehouse hotel, but then that never happened. And instead, during this period of being a bit lost, I rented a tiny little studio. It was literally a broom cupboard in what once had been a derelict mill outside Lancaster. And I did this to sort of unwind and rediscover my creative passions and reevaluate life, really, and figure out what it really was that I wanted to do going forward. So by now I had 4 teenagers, and one of them was really struggling around that tricky age of 13. So I decided to set up a charity and call it Escape2Make, with all the local artists in the area helping to create more freelance work for them. And particularly helping this age group, this vulnerable age group of 11s to 18s who, are too old for the playground, too broke for the cafe, and too young for the pub. That's not my quote, but I've pinched it from somewhere. But I think it summarizes beautifully, doesn't it? Yeah. Why they're so struggling. We're not helping them. So anyway, Escape2Make helps young people escape from social media, escape from life's pressures at school or at home, and make things, creative things, all kinds of things, and make friends and make a difference in the community. So really it's a way to help them connect with themselves, each other, the community and environment. So it seems like everything kind of unknowingly has sort of gone full circle. And now 30 years later, I'm addressing the exact problem that I saw coming back in the 1990s because of the onslaught of technology.
Yeah.
And Escape2Make really helps young people from all walks of life to find a bit of balance in their lives and to tap into their inner caveman and to uncover their creative passions and talents and find like-minded friends, which then helps them with their well-being and potentially with employment, with something that they love. And they're resilient so they can stick at it. But more than anything, it gives them a sense of purpose, because we're not just doing creative workshops. What we do is we support the young people to produce their own community events. So they produce cabarets and green festivals and heritage markets and fairs. And we have a youth board and they decide what we do and how we do it. Because why would you design any product, service or system and not have your end user designing it?
Brilliant.
That would just be arrogant and foolish. So the impact is so profound that we've had national lottery funding and we're about to open our first space on the high street. And we're getting ready to share our learning with other communities across the UK who are asking for us to do that.
Brilliant. That's so good. Watching films online of some of your young people and parents talking about this work in Lancaster, it's so inspiring, but it's also frustrating because there should be projects like this everywhere. How do you see ideas like this scaling into other places and contexts?
So it's very difficult because at the moment, like many other charities, we spend, 80 to 90% of our time fundraising because you're constantly trying to jigsaw together the funding just so you can do the delivery and cover the core costs to keep going. So to find funding for development is really important. But we've got proof of concept now, and we've got real ambition to scale, and that ambition has come from the demand that we've got nationally. And so, we're going to figure out how to do that. We've got some universities that are interested, including Lancaster University and University of Cumbria and Oxford University, the Said Business School have said, and we're like, really? We're a tiny little charity in Lancashire. Why are you interested? And Alex Nichols, the founder of the Skoll Centre, which is the social entrepreneur and impact centre within the Said Business School, said, because this is a really playful, local, creative solution to a really serious global problem. So we're optimists, and we just believe that people are going to wake up and realise this is exactly the kind of thing that needs funding. I'm going to start looking for companies who can see the value in what we're doing and want to be part of the antidote to technology. And that might be tech companies. I've no idea. I'm literally just starting to talk to philanthropists and businesses and figure out the strategy.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So good. And you, as founder, Jenny, stepped down as CEO of Escape2Make in September, which is just a few months back. And that is a big moment, isn't it, for a founder? How has that process been for you, of letting something go that you started, or not letting it go, but evolving your role in it? How have you found that?
So I found it completely liberating and such a relief. Now, had I have found it this liberating and this much of a relief if we hadn't found the most amazing woman in the northwest of England to do this role, then I might have felt differently. But I absolutely trust that we have got the right person who is 1 million times better than I ever was at a CEO. I'm not a CEO, quite honestly. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. All that I'm good at is finding people that are good at the many, many bits that I am very rubbish at. And I really am truly hopeless at many things. So, but I'm good at finding people, and I'm quite good at persuading them to get involved. And it's easy to persuade people to help with this, because everybody's either been a teenager that struggled, or they've got one, or they know of one. So it is an easy sell to bring in amazing people. And for me, I'm just really relieved now that I can focus on I can just let go of all of that, trust our brilliant team to get on with it.
Yeah.
And I can go and think of, the next part of the vision.
And what would your advice be to founders of organizations, projects who maybe feel their time has come to an end, or they want to transition into another role? What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be, think of what is best for the organisation. Let go, let go, let go. Find brilliant people and let go, and trust them and hand the baton over. And when people are trusted and it's genuine and it's authentic, and you put them in charge, magical things happen, because that is when they then own the project and they own what they're doing, and then they feel empowered and responsible, and then they really want to succeed. So that would be my advice.
So good. Jenny, with so many plates spinning, where is your place of reset or recharge for you?
So I have a little place that I go to. I try to get there every year. If I can, I go there twice a year. It's in the middle of nowhere in the Trussock Mountains in Scotland. I'm a bit rubbish at driving, so I never drive that far. So I have to take a series of trains, and I used to be able to get a bus, but now I have to take a taxi, and it's about £70 in the taxi from Stirling station. So it really is into the wilderness.
Wow.
And when I get there, I just have a total switch off. Everything goes off. There's no mobile, there's no laptop, no television, no radio, and it's truly heavenly. It's just this tiny little farmhouse nestled in a valley between two mountains overlooking the most beautiful little loch. And I think it might actually be magical. Because whenever I leave there, I feel like I've been away for a year. I have a total reset.
Brilliant. That's so good. I'm about to ask you a question, and I'm really, really hoping that you're going to talk about sand. But no pressure on this, Jen. But I'm going to ask, what wonder of the natural world excites you the most? Please say sand. Come on. You can do it.
Oh, Steve, it's sand.
Yeah, come on.
So it is anything that on first sight in the natural world might just seem tiny, ordinary, insignificant. And yeah, I once spent 3 years photographing sand grains through my microscopes. I also did, it wasn't just sand, Steve, there was also muddy puddles. I'm quite partial to a muddy puddle.
Brilliant.
And I spent ages, honestly, it's better than television, just watching all the life and the wonder and the drama and the horror and the beauty in one droplet of water from a muddy puddle. I mean, you can literally watch it for 3 or 4 hours until it evaporates under the microscope and doesn't move anymore. And it is really better than any film you could ever watch. And this is real life, and this is the circle of life. You see things being born and things, decaying and dying, and new life feeding off that. So yeah, water and muddy puddles is a fascination, but sand I really got carried away with. There's somebody called Eden Philpotts said, the universe is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper.
Brilliant.
I think that just sums up my complete fascination with tiny, ordinary things that aren't ordinary at all.
Yeah.
Just not slowing down enough to look at them and go, wow.
Yeah. Your TED talk around this is mesmerizing. One of the things that totally blew me away was when you showed the image of one grain of sand that you had magnified, and it showed multiple lines going across the grain, and you talked about these being tunnels in a grain of sand with microscopic worms. I had no idea. It totally blew the fuses for me, that moment.
Yes, that a grain of sand can be a planet for some microscopic worms. Isn't that just amazing? It just changes your whole perspective of everything. I do say in the TED Talk that was somebody else's photo, not mine. But I did, after the TED Talk, manage to find some of my own sand grains with worm tunnels in. And yeah, it was just quite a journey. In fact, I ended up taking my microscopes into a local hospice and putting them on a trolley so they could have a look. Because some of these people, they can move anymore, they can't travel anymore. But this is one way to see the world, to explore the world, and to go, wow, and to be distracted from the pain in your body and the pain in your brain. Just like, look at how amazing sand is. Who'd have thought?
There was a line in the talk that really inspired me, which was, every grain of sand has its own story. Every grain of sand uniquely shaped and influenced by fire, earth and water. And again, you're looking out across a beach or a sand dune or whatever. You're seeing it as a collective force and never thinking about it as an individual grain of sand being uniquely designed and everyone being different. That's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Completely mind-blowing. It's I suppose it's like snowflakes too, and probably many other things, probably blades of grass and
leaves, everything.
Everything. And think of the leaves that we find on in autumn, and where did that come? What was that story? Everything has a story. But these grains of sand that have been tumbled around from shells, from rocks, from organisms. So many of them are from organisms. I wasn't really looking at it from a scientific perspective. There were lots of scientists that wanted to tell me the labels for everything. But what really interested me was the kind of just the incredible colours. And you can get blue sand, pink sand of every colour, but you don't see it because when it's all jumbled up on the beach, it just looks brown. And then some of the pattern and some of the shapes and the forms, and it's like, oh my goodness, we are missing so much because we don't have microscopes for eyes. We're just missing so much, and probably looking at our phones a bit too much instead.
There we go.
Myself included in that.
Well, thanks so much for opening up a whole new world for a load of people on your TED Talk, and I really hope people have a look at it and dive in. It's extraordinary, really amazing. But we have 2 more questions, and our 5th question takes the focus onto someone else. So what is your hopeful story that's not your own about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world? So who would you love to give a shout out to today?
Oh, so I want to give a shout out to, and he's just died a few months ago, so I have to try and hold it together. But I want to give a shout out to Andy Palfreyman. All right, I'm just trying to pull myself together. So I am going to have to talk about myself for 2 seconds. That's whilst I tell you how I met him. So the best outcome from the Sand Gazer project, from all of that sand gazing, was that I had an exhibition in London, and through that exhibition I met a homeless man who worked in the soup kitchen next door to the tiny little gallery where my exhibition was. And he had been living in the shop doorway of Waterstones in Covent Garden for 2.5 years.
Wow.
And he'd actually been street homeless at that time for around 25 years. And we became very best of friends, and he became part of our family. And it was absolutely astonishing, an honour really, to witness how his life unfolded. And basically, in the 9 years of our friendship, he took up photography. He'd never taken a picture before in his life. He didn't have a phone, but he had this inkling that he was a photographer, and he took up photography and then had 3 solo exhibitions, one in Zurich, in the largest church in Zurich, and 2 in the Swiss church on Endell Street in Covent Garden.
Wow.
BBC Television came to his first private view, and there was a pianist and canapes, and then meanwhile he's sleeping in a shop doorway round the corner. Wow. He was the Dapper Snapper, which is how he rebranded himself. He had a cane that turned into a telescope and a top hat and bowler hats, and he always did look incredible. And he was a creative genius. So not only did he brand himself as the Dapper Snapper, but he branded his first exhibition as Cardboard and Caviar, because he said cardboard kept him alive, and caviar because of all the finer things in life that he likes. And he always chose really lovely addresses to be homeless in. The Swiss church said, do you want to project your images onto the wall? Do you want to put them on easels? How do you want to display this? And he said, I want to gaffer tape them onto cardboard, because I'm very grateful for cardboard, because that's what's kept me alive over the years. And then, in addition to his photography exhibitions, he had the most joyful, inclusive and sustainable fashion show as part of London Fashion Week,
Wow.
where he styled all these, I think he had about 40 models there,
Wow.
but the most diverse range of models ever. It was so wonderfully inclusive. And he styled them all with secondhand clothes.
Yeah.
And then it was shortly after that show, actually, that he moved into a flat in Bayswater. He basically epitomized humanity, creativity, generosity, compassion, resilience, and wisdom more than anyone I've ever met.
Wow. That's extraordinary. Jenny, this has been so good. We've got one more question. So as we draw our time to a close and prepare to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, what insight, wisdom, or question would you like to leave with us?
I'm looking out my window and I'm so struck by how tiny and insignificant we are, and how incredible it is to be alive and hurtling through space on this amazing giant rock that we call planet Earth. You know, I mean, it really is a miracle, isn't it? What were the chances? You know, we could have been a fly, we could have been a bacteria, we could have been an amoeba, we could have been a little microscopic organism that turned into a grain of sand.
Yeah.
But here we are as conscious human beings. You know, we're all we're all space travelers, and our time here is really very, very brief. So I guess the question is, for me, how do you choose to enjoy the ride? And Mary Oliver, one of my favourite poets, asks in her poem The Summer Day, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" And for me, that's a call to really embrace creativity and to nurture real life connection and to focus on the things that truly matter, like helping even just one person to find their light, or just noticing the tiny wonders like grains of sand. I'm actually a really speedy person with an erratic attention span. So I'm constantly trying to practice slowing down, finding balance, being kinder to myself and others, and being present and living life with intention. So for me, I think our biggest challenge as humans, apart from not blowing each other up and living in harmony, is how do we stop the addictive algorithms abducting our brains right now?
Yeah.
And how do we not scroll our precious lives away? And how do we become instead more connected to real life, to be more curious, to be more compassionate? And how do we look for the wonderful? And how do we just say, wow, a bit more?
Oh, my life, what a great way to end our orbit. That was so inspiring. I love your story, Jenny. I love what you're about. I love the fusion of creativity. I love the work of Escape2Make and what's bubbling there, the potential of that work. So I really raise a mug to you today, Jenny. What you've done is extraordinary, and it's been so great to have you on board this orbit today. But for people who want to find out more about you and especially the work of Escape2Make, where should they go?
They can go to our website, which is www.escape2make.org. So escape2make.org.
Brilliant. Thank you again. Thanks for helping us to re-wonder and for sharing your stories of hopefulness. You are brilliant. Thank you.
And can I say thanks to you for devising the most amazing questions to answer. I've never had such beautiful questions, important questions. And thank you for creating this space because it's so important.
Oh, that's really great. Thank you, Jenny. I hope you enjoyed this inspiring orbit with Jenny. The transcript, together with all the organisational links, can be found on Jenny's episode page at ourwonder.space. Finally, I would love to draw your attention to a networking platform that we have just launched to enable everyone to engage with our fifth question on Wonderspace. A networking platform called Someone Else that connects us through the way that we share hopeful stories about someone else. Go to someoneelse.space, create a simple profile and upload your story. Thanks again to Jenny and to you for listening.